So what's the deal with this Joyce and this Ibsen fella? They're like best buds. Except, they didn't really live for very long and they never lived in the same country together. I don't even know if they visited the same country even at less than 50 years remove. Joyce was a huge fan. He learned Norwegian in order to be able to read the original of Ibsen's work. So for those of you who are big on Mayor Pete, there's an interesting little link. He learned Norwegian really to read Narvi Vagnen, which is Ibsen's last play, written in 1899. Ibsen was to die in the year 1906, but before that, in 1902, Joyce wrote a defense or an argument for Narvi Vagnen, When We Dead Waken. It had not gotten particularly great reviews in Britain or Ireland. People didn't, for the most part, get it. People continued to expect Ibsen to produce these prose works, even though his earlier period had been very much all the poetic and symbolistic stuff. Indeed, his prose works are pretty symbolist in and of themselves. By the end, his chief translator in Britain, a Scottish man by the name of Edward Archer, said he translated his last work out of a sense of responsibility for the old man, rather than necessarily a great love of it. Joyce is different, though. Joyce gets it. 18-year-old James Joyce, reading this book in the year 1900, is appreciating and understanding what's going on. Because he doesn't see it in a strictly prose style. He's looking at it for symbolism. Ibsen's last plays like The Lady of the Sea, The Master Builder, and John Gabriel Borkman are very much symbolist masterpieces rather than plain prose or naturalism. And to try and tackle them as naturalist pieces is foolish. Arguably, with When We Dead Wake, he is taking a massive leap beyond what we understand, his sort of late symbolism and his naturalism, to go into a realm that is hard to comprehend without understanding first. It's easier to look back and understand than it is to be there at the time. In many ways, James Joyce is the same. With Ulysses, he is changing what prose and literature can be. He has a score of acolytes who follow through and develop his work in different ways. Be it people like Samuel Beckett, who delves deeper and deeper into more complicated and self-exploratory prose, or people like Flann O'Brien, who writes basically a comic novel using elements of the structure and the impossibility of literature to explore it. Ibsen eventually had Archer write a letter of thanks to Joyce for his initial review of the play When We Dead Waken in the Fortnightly review. On the back of that, Joyce wrote a letter back to Ibsen, praising him and his mastery and how much he leads. In a way, maybe you could argue in Dubliners, you can see elements of that earlier Ibsenian style, but really where you see his Ibsen most clearly, in terms of what we understand as Ibsen, is in the one play he wrote, which is Exiles. It's a small-scale play set in a 3-act style where we have a more, let's say, libertine artist come home to stay with friends in Dublin. It was never particularly popular, and I don't know if it was produced in Ireland up until the 70s possibly. It really started being reassessed in the 1960s. But I would say to this point, it is more likely to find an adaptation of the stories of Dubliners being produced than of Exiles. One of these days, I'll change that.
Those lovely seaside girls, all dimples, smiles and curls, your head it simply whirls. They look